What's going on? Daniel here, Mr. Cuervo Racing. Thanks for all the guys watching videos and hitting me up, and I appreciate the phone calls and the orders and everything else that goes with that. Um, Today I'm talking about piston rings, some features, some stuff you should know, and how to gap them. A lot of guys don't know that piston rings need to be gapped on new pistons. You need to file them to fit on the cylinder. So this one we're prepping out for a customer that we're actually mailing out. So we are pre-cutting these rings to a base generic size, which isn't perfect, but for him, I'm going to cut the rings a little bit on the large size to counter any variance on his cylinder. So it'll work for the customer. It would be more precise to file fit them for your exact cylinder, but in this case, that's not going to work for him. So basically, a few different things you need, a few different tools. You will need a set of feeler gauges. You will need a small file, a hard file. You will need something to square the ring in the bore. This here is just a tool that I bought. A lot of times, once you put the ring in the bore, you can square it up with, a lot of times you'll use a piston. This one has too big of a dome to where if we're trying to push square on that ring, it's gonna kind of be twisted a little bit and not fit square in the bore. So you can use something else, like say something even like this, like a short socket. So I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about, and we'll come back to some of the ring stuff. So I'm gonna take this ring. This is the top ring. Push it down in the bore. So you want to put the ring down in the bore about 1/2 inch or so, 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to take this tool here. It's just a stepped collar, and I can push it down and set that ring down in that bore. So you can see it's down a little ways, and it's sitting in there square. How I said with the piston, what you do is take your piston and drop it down in there and try to get it fairly square and push that ring down. Sometimes it works good, sometimes it doesn't. The other thing you can do is take a short socket and just use the edge of your finger, to the lip of the cylinder, go around a bunch of different spots, set that all down. Sometimes you got to pull back up on that ring, just to give a even measurement all the way around, where you can then measure this ring gap. All right, let's square this back up a little better so we can look at this. So see that gap there? We need to measure what that gap is. So there is specs in each of the, either your builder or I'll give you a spec on what the cylinder size wants for a ring gap. Rings do come with instruction sheets, and you can look online for generic sizing sheets. This one shows proper ring filing, what you're doing with the engine. It's basically what they're showing here is like how much heat that ring set's going to get, and you can use this calculation to give you the ring gap size. So on these stock bore cylinders, this is a stock bore cylinder, high compression. Normally I go 18 thousandths on the top ring and 20 thousandths on the second ring. So let's see if that will focus in. I'm going to measure this starting with a 13 just for a starting point. So that was too loose. I'm gonna go up to a try a 15. So you'll keep going up on the filler gauge size until you feel it drag in that. Okay, so we're right about a 16 right now. 16 thousandths. So we're gonna come up just a little bit, and I'll show you how to file those rings. Now, here is my ring file. Let's see, there we go. So, we'll take this ring, and we are going to file inwards toward the center of the ring. So we're going to go in a counterclockwise direction. What I'm doing, holding this ring, everybody's got their own technique, but I'm pulling in both sides and supporting this ring like this. So depending on how much pressure you put in is going to cut the ring faster or slower. So you want to go slow until you get an idea of how fast that is cutting, and then you can kind of get a sense of how fast you can go, how much pressure you can put. But start slow on that. We only needed to go up a couple of thousandths from where I want this at. So we're going to come back over to the cylinder, put the ring back in there, square it back up, and remeasure. So I'm looking for 18 thousandths on the top. That 18 thou fits in with just a little bit of drag, so that's probably right about 19, which is fine. So if you get too crazy and you file that ring too large, and say you blow it out and it's 50 thousandths gap, well, at that point you may want to reconsider getting a new set of rings. We'll see if a 20 fits. So a 20's real tight in there, so that puts that right about 19. So I'm going to leave that one there. But like I said, if you go too big, what starts happening is you get what they call a bypass or blow by past that ring gap. So the ring gap is there for the purpose of when this ring gets hot, its length expands, and you need some room so the two ends don't touch each other. Otherwise it'll bind up in the cylinder and a bunch of stuff breaks. Normally break the piston. But that gap is very important to have, so that ring doesn't lock up in the piston in the cylinder. So another thing we're looking at is just verifying the depth of the ring in the piston. So what we're going to do here is, this is our top ring, and we're going to put it in the ring groove sideways there. And what we want to verify is that the ring does not stick out past the material of the piston. It should be just under in this area. And that's how you verify that your ring is not too thick for the ring groove. So we'll do this, the lower ring, the second ring. So we'll want to file the top ring, we'll want to file the second ring, and we also want to check the oil, what they call oil rails. There's two of these here. We also want to check these in the cylinder as well. We go a minimum of 15 thou. Now these are a little bit more difficult to measure because of how thin they are. Sometimes they just want to drop down the cylinder. But as you can hopefully see, there is zero gap on these out of the box. So we will need to file both these as well. Now this wavy ring here, that's called the expander, that goes in between the two oil rails. A lot of times I'll check these as well. I don't recommend most people do this, but I will check them and make sure that they fit, that the length is proper on them, that they fit end to end, and that they are not taking too much force or buckling to go down in that bore. Sometimes we have to, on certain sizes, we have to change this or modify this slightly. But that is uncommon. Okay, so we went over ring gap, why they need to be gapped, variation of gap. If you go too big on gap, you start bypassing compression pressure, which is not good for power, and they do start to smoke and burn oil. If you don't have a ring file such as this, you can use something like a Dremel tool and be real cautious and cut real square on that edge of the ring. You also want to make sure that those ends are square to each other after you cut them, so they seal properly. And one more thing, after we cut that, you won't be able to see it here, but there will be burrs on the edge of those cuts, and that's where this small file comes in. What we will do is take that file and, going from the outside inward, run it across that face. I'm kind of cutting it at a 45-degree angle to that cut to take that burr off only. And just kind of check it with your hand. Refile it, do the bottom side. Recheck it. If you don't take that burr off of there, the ring will bind up in the piston. So that has to be done. You have to verify that it's smooth. And then when you put the ring on the piston, you can spin it and it'll spin smoothly. So installing the rings on the piston, most ring manufacturers will recommend you use a ring expander. I haven't had good luck with a ring expander. Many people I've talked to don't use a ring expander. In a perfect world, that would be great. On a flat top piston, it's less of an issue than something with a big dome. Most of these piston manufacturers are catering toward the V8 side or the automotive side. So like in this ring orientation where they're telling you where to put the gaps, they say engine front, but our engine front is not at our engine wrist pin center line. So we're going to go in this gap orientation, we're going to go off the wrist pin center line and not their engine front. So some stuff doesn't apply. You'll see that often. Ring orientation. How top ring, second ring. I circled the rings that we have on this piston. And I kind of wrote over here, but basically this is the top and how that ring will sit on the piston. So this one here on this top ring has just a small bevel on that inside. It's real hard to see. Let's see. You see a little bit of that bevel compared to this side is square. So that bevel is going to go up on the top ring. And this second ring, Napier ring, it is marked with the letter M. That goes on the top, but you can see maybe. Well, it's too hard to see because it's black, but there's a lip right here on the end that looks just like that, and that goes down. So, let's see what else. That is about it of what I'm gonna talk about today. Video is getting a little bit long. Just make sure to measure the rings is the most important part. Some of the more generic, like Wiseco pistons out of the box, are really good at having a ring gap already set. That's because that's a very generic piston going out to the masses, and they that's what they cater toward. Now the pistons that we're running, custom pistons, especially CP pistons, you have, as far as I've seen, you have to file fit all of them because they are more custom application pistons, as well as the diamonds need to file fit and verify on everything so you don't have trouble. So that is it for today. If you do have questions, additional questions or something, I'm sure there's so much to this. I'm sure there's a lot I missed, but here's that other portion of that ring end gap clearances. So leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them, and have a good week, and we will see you on the next one.